Greetings, Huskies. This is a cat. Just kidding. This is actually a notebook. Got a little bit of a glare happening there because the cover. This is my math notes. If I turn that off, you can see it a little bit better. Math notes 2020, 2021. Adorable cat. I've got my note on here that says, I love fractions. All right, let's get into it. So I'm very specific about my math notebook, and hopefully your math notebook will look just as good as this one. All right, so if you have a composition notebook, that's great. If you have a spiral bound notebook, that's totally okay too. But we're going to set it up in this fashion. Once we've got our cover, our name on it, our label for math, I'm going to open up. Now, using the margins and the top line, we're going to come through using a ruler. If you have a big ruler, that's great. If you have a small one, that's fine. And we're going to go through and we're just going to trace out 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. Now, this is our table of contents. So each time I make one of these videos to front load, you're going to go ahead and put in the date. And feel free to pause the video at any point if you need to get caught up. Date, lesson title, page number. So our first set of notes here is on 8/14, August 14th. And our lesson title is Intro for Introduction to Note Taking. All right, and if any of you did this over the summer, this should look really familiar. So Intro to Note Taking, and the page numbers for Intro to Note Taking, we are going to use the number 1, so 1L, and 1R. L stands for left, R stands for right. So this is how all of our lesson titles will begin. Date, title, page number. Now, our table of contents, we have so much learning this year. I don't want to run out of table of contents. So we're going to take the first page. We're going to take the second page and the third page. And what we're going to do is we're going to take those first 3 pages. And if you have a paper clip, you can use your paper clip. Mrs. McNeil actually bought me this really adorable cat paper clip. And I'm just going to clip together my table of contents and put it at the top so I don't accidentally take notes in my table of contents. So that's the first 3 pages. So now once I have that in, I can flip it open. And what you're going to see is side-by-side pages. And before I get started, I'm going to go to the left side, and in the bottom corner, I'm going to write 1L for left. Over here, I'm going to write 1R. So when we take notes, we're going to use a left and a right. We're always going to have the notebook open. At no point do I want you to have a notebook like this. I want you to look at the whole spectrum of the spread pages. All right? So we have our 1L, we have our 1R. Every single one of your assignments will have a title on the left side. I'm going to zoom in on the left side, but I'm not going to close up the right. So I'm going to have a title. Today's title is simply Math Notes. And the date is 8/14/2020. Could fit it in. And I don't know when I started doing this, but for some really strange reason, I just do like a cloud bubble around my titles. I don't know, I like to sketch it. It makes it look great. All right. So I have my math title. Next up, I'm going to come through with my objective. Can you say it with me? Objective. Excellent. Objective. Now, I always start my objectives with I will statements. Say it with me. I will. That's right. I will. I will learn to set up my math notes. All right. And typically I come through and I've got a really good steady hand for my underline. If you need to, I highly recommend using your ruler. I want my objective to really stand out. All right, I've got my objective. This is also known as a learning target. So the thing that we're trying to achieve. Like maybe this is like an archer's learning target. Got my arrow in there. Awesome. That's my objective, my learning target. The next thing that we're going to do, notice I'm only about a third of the way down the paper. The next thing that we might go over is vocabulary. And I don't just like to have words. It's going to be vocabulary and sketches. So an example of one of my vocabulary sketches would be something like this, where the number 1, I'm going to do a bubble letter because it's fun. Over 2. This is a fraction, as they like to call it. So sometimes I'll have a diagram in here, some arrows, so this is a fraction. The whole thing is a fraction. And then I might come through with another color and write the parts. Numerator, top, thingy. Yeah, my numerator. And since it's not similar, I'm going to say this is my denominator. That's going to be my bottom thingy. So in my vocab section over here, sometimes there's a sketch, sometimes there are words. It's not just writing the definitions. So, all right, so we're going to tape that onto here. So this section would be for vocabulary. All right, it's taped. Next section, the last section down here, this is where I would do an example. And my example relates directly to the objective. So whatever we were doing, I would have a version of what's happening. And this could be, let's actually call this example number 1. And I would go through and I would do step 1, second step, and I would color code it. I could do third step. So I'd go example, step 1, step 2, step 3. Over here, I typically like to come in and do a second example. Number 2. again, I would go through and use my color coding steps. So it would be 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, and this is where we try to break it into simple parts so we can chew it up and digest it. After this section, you would get next steps. Now, next steps could be workbook pages. It could be Prodigy. It could be Think Central. Could be something fun like Brain Pop. Or, you know, on a rare occasion, I've actually done Quizlet. Because math is its own language, I often really study that vocabulary. So this is a broad overview of my notes. Now, every time we do notes, it might look a little different. It's going to be on this structure. Sometimes I'll have one example instead of the second example. I might have a bunch of sample problems to try. But this is my overall notebook. Now, I know what you're thinking, Mr. McNeil, sometimes notes go more than 2 pages. Well, if that were the case, we would turn the page and we wouldn't say 2L and 2R. We would continue 1L, 1R so that the whole section for this lesson would be in the section 1. The next lesson that we get to, and I have a new title, that's when we move on to 2L and 2R. But these are my notes. Just a quick review. We're going to have a table of contents. We're going to clip up 3 pages for the table of contents. We are going to work our notes side by side. We'll have a title, an objective, some vocabulary, a few examples, and then next steps. All right. I look forward to seeing your notebooks throughout the year. All right, Huskies. I'll see you soon.